Welcome to the Out on a Limb podcast. We are all interconnected to a greater web of consciousness. Our aim is to open your mind to a new world through having open-minded discussions about what we perceive our reality to be.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Out on a Limb podcast with your hosts, Samantha and Allison and Will.
Switching it up.
I did.
I know. Like, it's a good thing when she said Samantha, you didn't go,
How did you like that one?
Oh, wait, wrong person.
And I realized in the opening,
What?
a couple of podcasts back, I said, because our beautiful Chrysilla created this opener for I don't need to say that anymore, but I like saying it. I think I need to say it.
Then say it.
Welcome or welcome back to all you returning audience members, faithful people that you are. We have a fun session today. We don't know where it's going to go. We have just a few notes here.
At first, I thought you were going to break into a Russell Brand introduction with all you beautiful, wonderful, whatever thing he says.
Highly evolved people.
That's right.
Yeah. I can't channel my inner
and
Russell Brand.
and we can handle the not highly evolved. That's the whole purpose.
Well,
of
that's
this,
exactly
for those,
right.
All you beautiful, wonderful, what does he call them?
I don't know. I just
All
know
you, but he would say 5 million and then 6 million and then 7 million.
it's getting there.
all you wonderful 1,100 viewers that we have.
And we love each and every one of you. Y'all
Absolutely.
are fabulous. All right. We're going to start with,
We digress.
that's the whole point of this episode today is digression
Ooh,
into many different topics.
that's such a deep subject.
That's why I'm corralling the cats here. Corralling the cats.
Uh-huh.
Okay. The first one is an interesting pet session. Every time I think that I know pretty much everything there is or have heard everything there is, no. All right. There's a teaser too, because didn't we tell you at the beginning of this year that we were going to have some hot guests? And I don't mean hot good looking. I mean hot as
Well, some of them are like,
well, I mean, we're not judging them based
Okay.
on that.
Oh,
We're
okay.
above that shallow stuff. Hot as in fantastic, motivational,
timely.
Timely,
beautiful,
yeah.
evolved, spiritual, just all kinds of, it runs the gamut, all kinds of highly
Beautiful
educated and-
souls.
Yes.
Yes.
At any rate, one of the people that we just got done interviewing, and it will air early September, was Jamie Butler. Yay! So be on the lookout for that. It's coming up after this podcast, but I'm going to give you a teaser. One of the things that we talked about, there's two teasers, and I'm going to get to this one later.
Oh, okay.
But the first teaser, we asked her to talk about, releasing outcomes. We've talked to you guys before as a practitioner, particularly about releasing outcomes.
Yeah.
And so she gave this beautiful, I'm not going to give that away, story about releasing outcomes. Will and I are not immune to that. We have to often release the outcomes of our sessions also, right?
Yes.
I remember
Yes, yes,
tackling
yes.
that early on in our Reiki journey, but
I don't have to because mine are 100% fantastic every single
well, there
time.
you go. Book with her. Details down below. Book a session with her.
Right. Today, not tomorrow.
At any rate, so we had a pet session the other day, and here's what's interesting. This person loved us. She had a private session, and so she knew we were legit. So I think she gave us a little bit of wiggle room, but we did a pet session, and there were 3 things that she asked. And when we got done with the session, I mean, the dog was coming through and answering all of these things, and I'm just loving it and whatever. And we get done, and I said, what about this and that? And she said, well, my dog doesn't do that, or my dog doesn't do that. There were 3 things. My dog doesn't do that.
Oh, that's always soul crushing.
And I trust our stuff at this point. So I knew there was some kind of reason. There had to be a reason, but I didn't know what it was. And I know the reason, but I don't know that my client trusts me in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're still having this niggle of doubt, perhaps, right? But it wasn't that I needed to validate the answers, but I wanted to find out why the answers came through the way they did. Like, for example, the dog said, I feel much bigger than I am. I like to go out before bed and I run the perimeter outside of the yard and I make sure everything's okay and I come back in. And she goes, my dog doesn't even like to go outside. I have to make him go outside. And I thought, Or then the dog said, sometimes we call it food insecure. I need to eat my food and I try to rush through my food even when I know there's nobody else in the house. Because I feel like, I need to eat my food that somebody else is going to eat it or whatever. And she goes, he's anxious to the point where we never leave the house. Like we don't go anywhere without him. He's either with us or he's not home alone or he's with a sitter or whatever. So he's never home alone.
And I'm just thinking, Will has sat there and like, he's in channeling mode, so he doesn't care. You're hearing this kind of going,
But I didn't know that till the end, till we debrief. I'm hearing the animals say all this stuff, and I'm thinking it's legit.
Okay.
We get to the end, and she's debriefing, and she said, well, he doesn't do that.
That didn't hit, basically.
Right, which is highly, I don't think that's ever happened, ever.
Yeah.
Really. And so there were 3 specific things. So I call in Archangel Ezekiel on occasion for, I don't even remember, we were talking about this, and I don't remember how Archangel Ezekiel came to me.
I think it was during the pet book, the love notes.
When I was seeking a guide to help in
Yeah.
case I had questions.
Right.
Or who
Right.
is it that works with the animals or whatever.
Yeah, or for you to work with, yeah.
Excuse me. So I called in Archangel Ezekiel, I don't know, a week or 2 later, just to talk to him about that. And he said, this is so fascinating. And this is why I say I always trust. This is why I trust. He said, you know, the animals understand their connection to source, and they understand they have past lives and all of that, which is an aspect of your multidimensionality. But this animal in particular is living in multiple dimensions at once. And the reason that he's living in multiple dimensions at once is because his owner, and I don't like that word owner, but his pet mom is operating in multiple dimensions at once. She doesn't know it yet because she's very new on her journey.
Okay.
And so this dog is interacting with her on all those different dimensional timelines, all these different timelines. They are together. So he was tapping into a random one that they have together that wasn't this current one that she's living in. Does that make sense?
So now are you going to need to say in this particular timeline in front of us, you're going to have to qualify?
And I asked Ezekiel, I said, what am I supposed to do? Because, you know, it makes you look like you're not credible to the, and he said, don't worry about it. You'll be shown or you'll know to ask the right questions if you feel like things aren't aligning or whatever, or you can offer that as a suggestion, but it doesn't happen very often.
Wow.
It really doesn't happen very often.
That is so cool. Just that aspect of it. Okay, so that's what you wanted to say with that pet session?
Right,
pet session?
right.
Because I wanted to ask y'all a question, and this isn't, you know, of course, this is from, you guys have channeled so much with pets. So I thought I would just ask this here because the anniversary of my daughter's kitty cat, her passing, is coming up. And y'all did such a beautiful connection, you know, while the cat was still alive, like, and just all the little particulars about her.
I remember that the cat jumps on her back, like to jump on her back.
Yeah, yeah.
And then she sent me a picture of the cat jumping on her back. That was so cute.
And she likes to go after those bubbles, and like, you know, that are just, anyway, she energetic bubbles. But so the anniversary is coming up, and Tessa, she's really trying to adjust to the fact that, you know, that this is final, that this is now a year and this is permanent. And she said, I just don't understand why my cat can't come back to me in another animal. Like, she was like, this is too final. I feel like she should be able to come back. So have they ever talked about that? Because,
Yes.
you know, Hollywood,
Yeah.
they
No,
go
sure.
on and on about that, and the dog comes back and all this stuff, but
They have talked about that a lot because a lot of pet owners,
Yep.
you want them to come
They'll,
back.
well, yeah, and they'll ask.
I'm trying to
They'll-
think
yeah.
of other words to use besides pet owners, but
Human,
Pet moms.
pet moms
and
and
dogs.
dads.
yeah.
They ask that.
pet
They're,
parent.
especially if it's at the end of life when they're having these sessions or whatever, and they want to help them transition and all this stuff. And they're like, can they come back? Because obviously they have shorter lifespans. They could come back multiple times in our lifespan, right?
Yeah.
And they said they don't really know, but it has to do with the contract. So it's whether you, on the energetic level, contracted with that animal to do that. It didn't sound like it was going to be a spontaneous, well, I transition now and I'm going to go up there. And because my mom just had a session with me and said she wants me to come back, I'm going to come back. It doesn't sound like it's quite that spontaneous.
Okay.
It's a little bit more contractual. And some animals have contracted with their human over multiple lifetimes because we'll look back at those past lives.
Yeah.
And usually there's at least one or two, but sometimes it's over and over and over and over because they have this mission together or something like that
Okay.
to teach
Yep.
each other and to learn.
Interesting. Okay. And so because of the nature of the contract, it shifts.
It may, and it may or may not. But they did say, they always say that if the animal does come back, and it could be in a different kind of body, not just a cat and a cat and a cat, that the human will recognize and especially through the eyes. When you see the eye,
Right.
like if you go to the pound and you start looking, or the Humane Society, you start looking at animals, you will know the energy of that
Yeah.
animal.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
So tell her to keep her eyes open and to visit, or check on the foster kitties that you guys are always interacting with, and just see if there's an animal that lights her up like that. It might be the same.
Or a bunny.
one. Or a bunny, or a
She's
lizard, or
into-
it could be anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the crazy thing is hearing the nature of the animals and other bodies, other experiences that they've actually had. And, I find that fascinating because then, like, so we're coming back in human bodies, and granted, we might come back in a galactic body or something like that, but we're not coming back as a weed. We're
Right.
pretty much doing the
A lot more
anthropomorphic kind of
variety
thing.
in the animal kingdom.
Yeah,
Right.
the space that they're working with, and I think that's so cool.
It is very cool. All right. And then there's another topic that you kind of wanted to dive into. The P word.
Yes.
I don't like that word, but that seems to trigger a lot of people.
Okay, you have to say the word. You want me to say
P
the word
word.
because you don't like the word?
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the P word. No, okay.
Which is?
No, I just don't. Okay, so we're going to talk about politics in the
Because
sense.
we're taping this towards the end of August, and it'll air at the beginning of September. And there's a lot of craziness right now, and will continue to be in the
Yeah.
United States particularly, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And it's like, things are getting switched up, and people are getting revved up, and positions are shifting, perspectives are shifting, and I'm just seeing the media shifting people. It's almost like, they're like batting people around, just kind of like, believe this, now believe this, now believe this, and so discernment needs to absolutely be
Oh, yeah.
above all.
Dialed up.
Right. So we're not talking about politics to give you our opinion.
No.
Or
No, we don't care what you do,
politics'
if
sake.
you vote, if you don't vote, all that's your
It's
personal.
just that that particular topic, that and religion, kind of bring up a lot of people's triggers and anger and garbage.
Yep.
And so we wanted to talk about how that looks in your life, and how to deal with that.
Well, because a lot of times, it's interesting because my mother was always like, I fought hard for you to have the right to vote. And I'm like, okay, but there have to be candidates that I believe in worth voting and all this kind of stuff. So we've gone back and forth over the years about it. But I've moved into this position through my spiritual growth. And it's hard to describe this to people. Well, maybe it's not that hard to describe it, but it's hard for them to get them to feel where I feel.
Sure.
Because I see, I see the balance or the dual reality, and I don't want to say dual reality because there's many, many different realities.
The multiple reality aspect of it.
The multiple perspectives.
That, and I remember I was getting pushed into defending, one candidate over another, even though like it didn't matter and it was none of their business, but because I kept saying to them, no one person is all good or all bad.
Right.
Everyone has their purpose here on earth. Everyone has their mission. Everyone here, for the most part, is trying to operate in what they believe is best. So what's best for me in my current financial or where I live, being would not be the same as someone else who say makes a lot of money and lives in the city, versus somebody who's living on a farm and, so all of our perspectives, they're different. Like, let's accept this, that we have our own kind of stake in the game or whatever, but so like, I don't even like I don't do the game.
Well,
because life happens regardless.
right. And from a 3D perspective, we do have to participate to some degree, whether you choose to vote or whether you don't or whatever. But you are going to be subject to whatever is happening in your country or your state or your city to some degree because of the laws that are made or things that happen, right? So you have to function under that and within that and as a human being, but at the same time holding that perspective of the observer or the 5D, if you will, the 4 and 5D aspect where you can see what's happening and yes, you can participate, but you have a greater perspective of the whole picture and why we have polarity on Earth, which is so highly evidenced in the political spectrum. Unfortunately, it's like people can monitor themselves and understand different perspectives in so many different arenas. But when it comes to politics, all bets are off and the gloves are on. And I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, people just go, well, the thing is, what's your purpose for being here? What's your goal? What is it you really want to accomplish? I may feel one way or another about a given individual, who's in office, whether it's state, local, or whatever. But my purpose for being here is to be of service and work with people. And so, my opinion doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And I cannot let that influence or be divisive, because people say, and somebody just posted recently, how do you feel about putting your political, this was someone who's who coaches. And they said, and I think I know where he's going to go, like, don't do it, but he was asking, are you going to post things about politics and what's going on and your position on, it's not just like the 2 or 3 or 4 people running or whatever it is. It's also about, various issues and all that. And are you going to put that out there? And, again, it goes back to, these are my personal beliefs. I don't need to shout it to the world. These are, I've come to them because of my own personal journey, and that's good for me. And it's not my business to convey that to anyone else. Like, it's not constructive. I don't need to sway an opinion.
But on the other hand, you have the right to your opinion, right? And so you should assume, and we should be able to assume that those people who are operating in that 5D space, that 4 and 5D space, would be okay with whatever your opinion is, because we all should be neutral about it. However, when you understand it from that fifth dimension, we're not operating there all the time, but I'm just saying you're dipping in and out of that, and that's the energy that we're trying to embody. When you look at it from that perspective, you don't need, like you said, to share that because it's going to be divisive. I mean, it just can't help but be sometimes. And so, yes, I have an opinion, and my opinion is valid, and nobody should be triggered by that, and nobody should have an opinion about my opinion. But I don't.
We're still human.
But I'm above needing to put that out there as front and center, as description of who I am. Right?
Yeah, we don't need to identify. And that's what they talk about is
It doesn't need to be your. It doesn't need to be your name tag. Your name tag is your essence. Is your soul. Is your
your energy signature.
Because it's not the most important thing about you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're what you identify to do politically or not in your physicality. That's what you've come here contractually to do. But at the core of who you are is that divine being. And that divine being is what should be present and out in front of everything. So it's that perspective you talk about, that, looking at it from the 4th and 5th dimension, or that higher level perspective, that's where, you can have that perspective. It's just that how it's what's the best way to say this? When the boots meet the ground, are you still going to be in that? Are you still going to be in that divine space, or are you going to allow your 3D to take over? And that's the difficulty in it. Is we lose. Many of us will lose sight of
the greater mission,
our divine mission, because we feel like we have to embroil ourselves in these arguments, in these positions, and all these things. When that. And not to be flippant, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's not gonna serve.
And I was going to ask, if you were to post something, if you're one of those that likes to post, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying, what is the motivation there? Like, why, when you post something, like when I post something happy about my kids and whatever, it's because I want you to share in my joy. But if I post something political, what is the point? Is it to try to convince somebody that I'm right and they're wrong? What is the motivation behind that? And oftentimes, I think if you look at it, it's a motivation that might not be the best.
Of a best interest.
Or I mean.
Or the higher perspective.
Yeah. There's, and I think about like Abraham Hicks and how, they're always saying, you have to know what you don't want to know what you do want. You know, everything
Right.
serves a benefit.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other night, and it was interesting because she, you know, we had this conversation about if, okay, like, and we weren't saying if we operate from the fifth or, fourth dimension or whatever. We were just saying if there was nurturing, if there was love, if there was caring first, then all of this, you know, it'd be like, oh, okay, well, this is your opinion, this is mine. Like, we wouldn't have as many, I guess.
If the foundation was there.
If the foundation was solid, we wouldn't have such divisive issues that are triggering everybody. And so the thing is, you got to look, like when you're ready to jump into something and you know, say something that, you know, like, does it really have a place here? Whatever, you know, what is it you're trying to accomplish? But you have try to stop and look at yourself and just think to yourself, you know, what place is this coming from? You know, what is it where is it I want to be? Because you have to start, you have to, you know, they say be the love that you want in the world. And so you have to start accepting, you know, you don't have to, sorry, but it would be ideal. It's certainly a friendlier place when you begin to accept all points of view, all points of reality, and have that flow of allowance, and allow everyone to be where they are and have their opinions, and, you know, and all motivate and gather together. Like, you have to start that for that whole effect to begin to hit other people. Just
Right. And
holding
like
the space, I
what
guess.
I've mentioned in The Journey Within, which is about knowing yourself, is we have all these labels where we are the construction worker, or we are the Republican, or we are the teacher, or we are the gymnast, or we are whatever. And all of those are just labels. Who are we at our core, right? And so what is it that we want to communicate about ourselves and why? So I think really the point of this discussion, well, part of the problem that I also wrote about in The Journey Within is that we have been over time so manipulated by external forces outside of ourselves. So all of these labels that we put on ourselves, is it truly who we are, or is it who everybody else says we are? Like, okay, you're the middle child.
point.
You're the middle child, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
you're,
it's-
So you should
you're
have
so
these
smart, or-
Right.
constructs,
It's the picture. It's the picture that society paints you into.
right.
Right. And so
the role you got to play.
the role you got to play. So you're brought up in a certain type of family household. You're brought up in a certain type of religion. You're brought up in a certain type of workforce. You're brought up into, and that becomes the picture that is painted for you. You're not painting your own picture. When you can finally see beyond that, when you can step back and see that you've had
Do
this.
I really identify with
Right.
those
Do I
things?
identify with the picture that has been painted for me of my existence? And if you don't, and you decide to step away from that and create your own picture, your own beautiful portrait of yourself, well, then that's by the voice which you speak. And
You've graduated.
right, well, yeah, in essence, yeah, you've graduated, but then it does become a bit more difficult because you're now a bit of a minority, right?
Yeah.
So you're,
Okay.
so
Well, it's about living authentically, and that's not always easy,
but
right?
that's so we've swayed from living authentically into living.
Conformistly.
Thank you. There's a number of words. Yeah,
We make up words here. It doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. But yeah, we've you know, if you go back in our history, just our, you know, to the 1800s, whatever, you know, we lived authentically.
We did?
We did.
Well, I think
to a point.
I think once you get outside of, well, no, because there was still religion.
You-
I think you have
well,
to get outside of government and religion.
Yeah, but even I'm just going back a reasonable amount of time. I'm not going to say go back
So your
2,000
point
years.
is that the pendulum has swung? Is that what you're saying?
Pendulum
Okay.
has swung so far to the other side that everybody has to adhere to one belief or another, and if you
Or be
don't,
vilified.
you'll be vilified.
Yeah.
So and if you do believe in one side or the other, you're right. So there's no in between, and there's no authenticity in
Right.
either side. You have to. It's an individual action.
We're not allowed to come to the middle.
Exactly. We have to conform to one side or the other, or you don't exist.
And the reason is because I think these forces outside of ourselves have made us feel that some of these divisions are life or death. That it's so
Yeah.
serious that
Yeah.
it's literally life or death. That if you don't believe this way, it's going to be the devastation of everything you ever knew or thought you knew.
You know,
And so when the
What a horrible
stakes,
way to live.
when the stakes are that high,
Yeah.
that's why people are fighting tooth and nail to defend that, because they think that if they don't, who knows what's on the other side? It's awful. It's atrocity. We can't handle it because it's been made to be life or death. And again, that's external forces.
Right.
Is it really? Are the stakes really that high? I don't think so.
and see, for
Like even presidential elections, my God, it's been like that. It's been amping up every 4
Allison said
years
another
that the
P
stakes,
word.
that the stakes, but this is what we're talking
Yeah.
about where it's so evident, but the stakes are so high, so high, so high. Has any one president ever really completely ruined our country?
No, it goes
No.
one
Probably
way and then it goes
not.
the
Yeah,
other.
so
yeah.
you know,
Right.
I've never found myself as a political person. Never have. All the way through, you know, up to this point, I still don't consider myself a political person. And the reason I don't, and I go back to my military time, is that every 3 to 4 years, a new CEO comes in. Right? We get a new person in charge every 3 or 4 years, and you have to adapt to that person's issues.
Same with the church too.
Well, or the church, certain churches, exactly. So it's you get accustomed to going, okay, I'm not going to hang my hat on any one particular individual because I know
Right.
that in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, this person's going to be out, another person's going to be in. I'm going to have to adjust my sails. I'm going to have to plot a new course, and I'm going to have to move on. There's nothing that I can do to change that process. I have to then live authentically for myself,
Right.
in my own truth, in my own process, and hold true to my core values and move forward. So I apply that to my political understanding. There isn't one specific person I'm ever going to hang my hat on that it's going to be a savior, that's going to do anything, that's going to do whatever. But
No,
also
there
in
aren't
that course of time that they're there, they're not going to destroy anything because there's too many stop gaps in between. And that person will be out, another person will be in. I'll have to adjust my sails, plot a new course, and move on. It's just this kind of, but again, I struggle to say, well, am I going to go vote this year or not? I don't know. I really don't know. Am I going to,
Until the day comes, yeah.
Every day, every year. I mean, I didn't start voting until, just recently. So it's just one of these things that, when I feel led, I'm going to go do it. If I don't feel led, well, I don't feel led.
I want to be devil's advocate.
ahead.
I always love being devil's advocate off of, something that said. So, you're saying, basically life will go on, not much changes. And and in essence, the day after an election, you're going to have to get up, get your kids to school, go to work. Like it's all just going to start all over again. Like it's the process now. But when you say, it's, no one gets hurt and it goes on. Well, we've seen laws change that have directly affected people. So
sure.
it's not like we're saying head in the sand.
No,
We're not aware
no,
of any of that.
No. Everybody, every side of the aisle has their agenda, and they're going to push an agenda. It's the same thing in the military. There are certain groups in the military that are going to push their agenda when they're in charge, and you
Yeah.
just adapt to it. You're like, okay,
Well, but here's the thing. Some okay, I'm trying to be very careful, but I want to
absolutely,
make
yeah.
an example out of this one. Some recent laws have affected women.
yeah.
And it's not like they're not being affected by it, but who's to say, if you go with the belief, and we assume most of our audience understands the concept that you come into this life basically knowing, because everything's happening right now. So
Yeah.
you know what the content of your life is. You make your plan. You're like, I want to have certain experiences. So by that, no one's a victim. You're coming in knowing certain things are going to happen. Certain laws are going to change. Certain things are going to be whatever. And I am going to dive into that particular experience so that I can use it to have a growth experience. So in other words, it's not for any of us to sit there and go, well, that's a crime, or that's a
Atrocity
victim,
or
or
something,
whatever, because you don't know how that soul is using that experience to then catapult them forward. And that's like it's funny because we talk about this concept in the nice and easy kind of stuff, but we don't look at it when it's the hard stuff, like someone who is, say, becomes a hostage or whatever.
Sure.
None of us are victims because there is that all happening in the now, and we have that worldview coming in, and it's just, it sucks to be in the moment and to be in that experience.
Well, it's a difficult, it's a difficult concept for many to understand.
I'm glad you're bringing that up.
Because it's a very difficult concept to understand, because it will take you back in time to many of the atrocities that took place in our history, and the questions of why this, this group versus this group, that kind of thing, and not until you really can step back, and it's difficult, and I know you struggle with it quite frequently. I have remained, I'll say, relatively neutral with the understanding of the whole contract aspect of it. But when you try to explain that to someone that doesn't quite grasp that, that's a very hard pill to swallow. And to say that we come in and we have a contract, and everybody else that's in my life, external or internal, they all have agreed to be part of my contract. I've agreed to be part of their contract, no matter the atrocity or the thing that's going to take place around me, and I'm going to be either the victim or the perpetrator. And thank you, because I was going to say victim, whatever. Anyway,
yeah,
it's to put all those pieces together for someone that maybe just starting out on their journey, or somebody that's even seeped into their journey that just haven't explored that portion of it. It's a deep concept to understand, but like you said, it's a very triggering concept, because it really starts to unravel the fabric by which you understand your existence.
And I want to try to just make sure that we are putting out the right message here, because we're operating under two realities at once, essentially. We are humans on the ground level. Are there victims on the ground level here in humanity? Absolutely. And are we blaming victims for things that happened by saying you signed a contract?
Nope.
No, absolutely not.
Nope. It's more of an abstract.
But the other reality, besides the 3D physicality, is this multidimensional aspect of ourselves, whereby in that energetic form, we did sign contracts to have situations, experiences,
crazy as
all
it may
of that,
seem.
Craziness, happiness, all of that sort of stuff, joy and grief, and all of them are learning experiences. So when you see it from God's perspective, or from our higher self perspective, there aren't victims as we would understand victims here in this 3D reality. It's not like that. The same way there isn't polarity up there, and that's why even in religion they say God is everything. Everything is God. It's all created. So even the good stuff and the bad stuff it's all from God. It's all from that energetic universal field of love. Even though on the ground it doesn't seem that way, because we have polarity here.
Right.
And the polarity has purpose. I mean, it's not that it's not bad. It's just, and again, I like Abraham Hicks, how they have always described it as contrast. It's not good, it's not bad. It's simply what is, in order to expand growth.
The judgment is what you put on it as to whether it's good or bad, or how it.
Yeah. And that's one thing, through my awakening experience, that is one thing I'm very aware of, that I've been, a gift I've been given, or an awareness I've been given or attained or brought in or whatever, that I can see an event, and like the human in me gets, sometimes I just want to curl up in fetal position and just go, why? This is, but there's this other aspect of me now, and I hope that y'all get there, at some point, because it's really fascinating to be like, this is what is it, macro, when you're like in close, or the
micro, and then the macro.
And then all of a sudden it just happens. I must have done it purposefully, but now it's just automatic, where I just zoom out, and it's just like, when you zoom out, you do shift into a neutral space, and it's not that you're being insensitive or uncaring. It's actually that you're coming at more of a space of love.
You're coming from a soul space. You're coming from that divine creator space, that divine source space, and you're being able to see humanity through a different lens.
Yeah.
You're seeing the true essence of humanity at that point. And
it's amazing.
And many will say, well, the true essence is what the human is doing. No, it isn't what the human is doing. It isn't what the human is portraying. The true essence is seeing that heart center, that divine center that is in everyone. It doesn't matter. And again, this isn't to make light of it or belittle it, but from the victim to the perpetrator, it's looking at everyone from that divine soul space to understand that we're all here purposefully. We're all here on this little blue ball purposely to be together, to play our roles, to do our things. But ultimately, it is to come into the essence of our own understanding. Some may not. That's your contract. But when you can see it from that greater divine perspective of every single living soul on this planet,
It's breathtaking.
it is. And then if you can, and you can join forces, or even be able to step up to someone that may, in the physicality, be on the opposite side of your thought process. It is, if you can come together as a divine soul meeting, you can have those conversations. But if you come into that meeting from your persona, that picture that's been painted for you, those conversations are never going to take place. It has to come from a divine soul space.
You need to approach the meeting that way, but also see the other person.
Yes,
in
that's
that
what I mean.
divine
Yes,
as well.
it's an equalization of visualization. It's an equalization of understanding.
That was pretty good.
Both sides are divine beings in that space at that moment.
Right.
And that sheds away the physicality. It sheds away any of the physical belief systems, and you speak heart to heart. Now, then you can wrap in your physicality, you can wrap in your physical belief systems, because now you've diffused the conversation through being united in the heart space and being able to speak consciously through the human.
And so why are we having this conversation? Essentially, it's about, are we creating more division, or are we creating harmony and bridging the gap? And so I was watching Love Covered Life, which is a podcast. If you haven't watched it, watch it. It's Melissa Denise. I had an interview on her podcast a couple of years ago, I think. She's beautiful, but it was interesting. A recent video that she put out talked about her channel, because she just hit 100,000 subscribers, and it talked about her channel and how it's evolved over the years and why it evolved over the years. And one of the things that she said was she started out to be a religious deconstructor, because she was coming out of a conservative Christian, I think it was, framework, and how she had come to understand, like I did in the Journey Within, this greater spirituality aspect. And so somebody has coined the phrase deconstruction of that. And so she realized, though, after doing a number of those videos, that after a while, it was creating division, and it was really eating away at her. Could she continue to do this? And the reason it was creating division is because you had all these people that were like, ooh, religion, yeah. And then other people were like, oh, I like my religion. And, and it was creating this tension.
Yes.
You see that within comments, the comments and videos.
I think that's what she was seeing. And so it was creating this hatred back and forth, two sides. And she didn't mean to even create that space, but she realized that's what was happening. And so she evolved her channel a little bit more. And so with us, when we put something out on social media, are we contributing to that divide? What is our motivation behind saying something to somebody or posting something online? What is the intention?
It goes back to I guess you could say Emoto's work with speaking positivity in your words, right? It's what does that vibration hold? Well, you may not be speaking it verbally, you're speaking it digitally. And so you're sending a digital footprint of energy out into the ether, into the universe.
And it doesn't have to be a bad thing.
No, it doesn't.
But if it's
where does the seed
where
does the seed of that thought come from? Take a moment before you put the first finger on the key. Take a moment before the first word rolls off your tongue to go, where is this actually coming from? Is this because I want to be decisive at this moment? Is this because I want to play the human role? Or is this because I'm trying to be divine, but I'm not quite sure, I'm struggling with this? So take a moment. but
Or if you encounter those types of things on social media, do you need to respond to
go go all
Right.
frozen on that stuff?
Right.
Yeah, because it's
Let it go.
because
I've
you're
sung on the, are you going to sing? I've sung on the an episode.
I just started and you didn't even hear.
I heard you. Keep going.
we're gonna have to
good.
pump up the volume on that one.
Right.
No, but I think what you're doing in essence, and we're kind of focused on the digital now. But when you, and even in a conversation with someone, when you find that they're coming from that space where they're holding this, it's a lower fear-based energy. Like it's not coming from, well, I've had a hard time this past week feeding my kids and I'd like things to ease up a little bit. Okay, that's neutral. That's, reasonable and stuff. But when it's coming from this, the whole world is gonna,
Guttural.
and you're there's this energy that is so low vibe. And when you engage in that, you can't engage, like you're not engaging. If you're talking up here and going, love, peace, like that's not coming across. So the only way you can actually communicate is then to go down to that level. Just don't. Like,
It doesn't feel good anyway.
no.
It
And
feels yucky.
I have done it
Because
in the
we've all
past.
succumbed. We have
Right,
all
we all
succumbed.
have.
Yeah, and
We all
you
have.
feel unclean.
Yeah.
You're just kind of
You're
like,
like,
going,
why
I go
did I
back into leap.
Why did I get sucked into that?
Yeah, and I was
Where's
just,
the undo button?
well, and I was just thinking about how people will actually put really great comments out there, and eye-opening and, just from different perspectives. And this thought was going through my mind as you were saying that, and you've got those people who they say, trolls, like they go online
yeah,
trolling. And I just thought, those kind of trolls give trolls a bad name.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but they do. Trolls aren't that bad.
know-
But when you go and you lambast someone or make ridiculous of their comments and all that kind of stuff, they're already vibing in a low energy anyway.
And whatever you say is not going to make a difference.
Well,
Anyway, it's
and
not going to change their mind. So why bother?
For me, my experience in this is, and it's just kind of my nature from just trying to jump into things and whatever, and I don't do it on social media, but there have been times where I have seen a comment and I'm like, and I literally start typing it out, and I'm literally overriding what my internal senses are doing. My internal senses are like, shut it down, don't stop. It's
leave it alone.
like reaching for the red
But I
stop
have
button.
to.
But my brain is going, nope, you need this right now. And I never send it, but I have to go through the actions of typing
well, that's
that out.
honoring your feelings.
Right, because
like,
at some point, the override system actually just takes over, and it's like, okay,
You can't stop
Look
on a
here,
freight
dummy.
train.
Right, look here, dummy. What you're about to hit when you hit send on that is going to open up a whole nother thing that you
I've
don't want
learned
to step
that.
into.
Yeah,
So,
with emails too.
right. So I just, and now it's like I see a comment and I go, oh, okay, and swipe. It's like I don't even acknowledge it. It's like, oh, isn't that interesting? And then I just move on.
it is, okay, we understand this is a process.
Oh, it's a huge process.
But it is part of a spiritual journey, learning how to move into that neutral space. The more you can move into it, the more, and it's not you're putting your head in the sand, or I always say that, it's not
naive,
you're not ignoring it or
naivety
anything
or,
like that. It's just that you gain a greater perspective, and you can operate from common sense, a more sane perspective. You can have more effect by curiosity.
Yeah.
It's just, but we understand, like, a lot of the people that are going out and saying things, they're saying things because they're feeling triggered. They're feeling that need to push the frustration and all that kind of stuff out there. So, try to recognize there's frustration there. They don't understand something. They're trying to get it out. They want to be soothed. They want someone to say, it'll all be okay. And the thing is,
Right.
it'll all be okay. Eventually,
Right.
you're going to move through this experience. You'll cross over, and then you'll be in a new experience.
Because like you said, if they're operating from a fear-based place, then you spewing more fear or anger is not going to help them get out of that.
Yeah.
So if you can recognize a trigger and calm yourself, and then present a different perspective, a loving-based perspective, or something that might help them to shift.
See, I don't even think you can in those kind of
Sometimes
comments.
I think. I think it depends on if it's a friend or relative. If it's somebody you have a relationship with anyway,
Yeah.
then perhaps you can offer. If you don't think you can, don't. But I
Wouldn't
mean,
work
if you
with
think
my mom.
if you think you can from a loving place,
Yeah.
Give it a
that's-
shot.
Okay,
yeah. But and come from that loving place. That's really what it's about. And I know this all sounds airy fairy, but it truly is. I mean,
These are words of wisdom.
yeah,
this is from experiential growth.
Right, this is from experience. I mean, I can say that I was the one that would want to jump into an argument or jump into a political fight or jump into something else, and I have no interest in that. I have absolutely no interest in that because I have seen the beauty in humanity. I've seen the beauty in souls. So I don't need to fight with a human. And I definitely don't need to fight with a soul because a soul's not going to fight. A soul is going to stand there, embrace you, and you're going to understand each other so much differently.
Right.
So,
Right. I did want to tackle touch on in this episode also, because we're taping this on, what is it, Sunday, the 18th of August?
Yes.
Tomorrow is the super full moon.
Ooh.
And apparently there's a lot of astrological stuff happening this week and coming up. So
Is it the pot is being stirred?
you may get time to practice what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's not just Mercury in retrograde. Everybody goes, oh.
We have political stuff happening this week, and there's a lot of things happening worldwide right now. So I don't know what it's going to look like in the couple of weeks till this airs.
I would just say
Hopefully-
That'd be,
breathe.
yeah, fascinating.
Hopefully
yeah.
everybody's okay. Just breathe, right?
Just
Breathe, turn off the
breathe.
TV,
Yeah.
turn off social media if you need to, and
Turn off.
get
turn
out
in.
into the grass. Right,
Oh,
turn in.
listen
Very good.
Right.
Look at him.
Oh, we're
Sometimes-
going to have shirts printed with that. Yeah, but I love that. I wish we could time jump and let people know ahead of time. We just know from all the people who are reading all the signs and everything that it's going to be,
A little dicey.
a little dicey, but we're all going to arrive on the other side.
It's all purposeful. Tell yourself it's all purposeful.
Yeah.
And reach out to those that you trust, right? Reach out to your trusted friends. Reach out to your trusted,
Listen to some of the channelings on this channel if you need some love and some good vibrations.
That's true. The collective will set you straight.
And the next podcast that you see after this one, God willing, because I think I've scheduled it correctly, is the one with Jamie Butler.
As long as I do my part.
And that's
right.
all upbeat. That's all like
Very,
woo.
she's high vibe, authentic,
amazing.
very happy, loving.
Yeah, that if that's occurring after this particular podcast, you guys will be so soothed. You will feel like just tune into that energy and love and acceptance, and you'll feel good.
She's wonderful for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it. Anything else we need to update folks on?
No, I don't think so.
I'm just really glad that we had that discussion and that we were so and it calmed us down, the energy, because we were just bouncing off the walls before when we started. And yes, we snuck in this after pet sessions and everybody's like, oh, and you're like,
beginning?
politics. But it was an important conversation to have. And all of this is from love and sharing. All these conversations we have are to help you to examine and open up your world and stuff. So it's
That's what we're here for,
Yeah.
just to help.
there we go.
Kicking open new doors. That's all.
And we're doing that with your help, and we thank you so much for
Yep.
watching. Please hit the thumbs up and share and subscribe if you haven't already. You'll get notifications that way, and you'll see when we have events. We post those every now and then up there when we have events that people can maybe
Yeah.
meet us.
Yeah.
Come and
Yeah.
meet
I was
us.
like, are you posting those?
We do. There's an actual area there on YouTube to do that, and finding out when we post new episodes every Wednesday.
Yep.
So until next time,
Bye.
see you
See y'all.
later.